Hello and welcome to another horrific review. I'm joined once again by Steve as we continue our journey along the Hammer horror filmography path. Released in 1957, this film tells the story of Baron Victor Frankenstein, who, while waiting execution for murder, tells the story of the creature he built and brought to life. The movie was made on a budget of $270,000 and brought in $8 million at the box office. Just a wee bit successful, this one.
Yeah,
I
fantastic.
think this movie could quite easily have funded like the entire Hammer horror, like with that profit margin.
I think you put a base on, future ones with Hammer to say Hammer is here. I know they've done several before, but I think this actually put the
Well, we've covered them before, you know what I mean? They've done
yeah
loads of movies, but this is their third horror movie.
yeah.
And
This is a cracker, but
this put them on the map,
yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah. This and then of course they did Dracula, didn't they, as well? And
Yeah, well, we'll get to that, but I think we've a few to go. Like, even before they got to Dracula, and I think we're going to see it as we go along this journey, like, even before reaching Dracula, they've already established themselves, you know what I mean, as classic horror.
yeah, and in some parts scary, because if you think take yourself back to 1957, this would have been sort of quite new to a sort of horror audience. I know we had the old Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff stuff, but this sort of started it all over again. You know, you had the color aspect and things like that, and but you wouldn't have expected something along this lines of coming being built really, and coming alive and strangling and being that scary. But
Well, this is a classic. I mean, it's the Hammer horror aesthetics. It's the set pieces. It's the colorization. I mean, it's the particular tone that they
yeah,
have that is known throughout. You know, what I mean, if you think of Hammer horror, this movie's it.
yeah,
I mean, everything else we've seen since. This is the building blocks of the Hammer horror franchise, and this is
yeah,
before we even get anywhere near Dracula.
yeah,
Um, and it's a classic. Like, you can still watch this today and still be like, "This is brilliant."
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
absolute classic horror.
I
Brilliant
must
story.
say, it's as well. I think it sort of brought Peter Cushing to the forefront and Christopher Lee, and it's probably Peter Cushing's, probably one of his best films. That started him off as a household name, really. That Peter Cushing, and
I mean, you think about it, Christopher Lee plays a secondary role in this.
yeah,
Like, he's not,
you
he
don't
doesn't
really even
speak.
see his face.
Yeah, he's wearing prosthetics,
Yeah,
probably latex back then. He's heavy made up. He's a beast.
hmm.
You know what I mean? He's not like powerful. We'll see it later on. Like, Frankenstein abuse. This is pretty much Baron Frankenstein's story.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
It's
also told about through the unreliable narrator as well, because he's wanting his story to be told.
yeah, and he
Thinking
gets the
he's
priest. He thinks the priest is the only one who will believe him. Yeah,
he's kind of barking up the wrong tree there as well. If you think about it, you know what I mean? Because don't forget, this is during the time, because it was set in Switzerland, 19th century, wasn't it?
yeah.
Science and religion didn't really get on. They weren't exactly best of pals.
No, especially because the religion wouldn't have believed in that, so it would have been God this and God that. And if he had said, "Well, I've built this man from and put him together and brought him to life," it would have been against all what was written in the Bible, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and that was when did that come out? Was that the 19th century?
late 1800s,
Late 1800s, yeah, 19th century, right? So it was banned by the church because of the line "For I am God."
Yeah,
where that was the whole point of the story, was Frankenstein's mania, his god complex, and his downfall. But the reactionary, nature of, well, we'll see it today as well. Like, institutions are, reactionary people, be it religious or ideologies, whatever else. It's all about, that fall outrage,
Yeah.
but without looking below the layer, where Mary Shelley's story was actually warning against this type of stuff. Yet the reactionary language of the church and their actions against it, like, just showed no understanding whatsoever. Which is why I can't talk me personally, I cannot talk the ideologues, because there's nothing there of nuance.
But it was a premonition as well, wasn't it? Of no one would have believed in 1957, or even going back to the 1930s one with
Right up to the 70s,
that.
80s, transplant. Transplant.
Yeah, no one would have thought we can transplant a hand, but they do. Now they put new hands on, don't they? They even hearts.
Yeah, and they grow them. They don't even transplant anymore. Like, they've been experimenting now, and I don't know how far they got, but they're actually growing the organs.
Yeah.
It's well beyond even.
They replace valves, don't they? With I know they do plastic now, but back in the 80s they used to use pig's valves in human hearts for valve transplants. It was. I think it was Mary Shelley's was a bit of a premonition, a bit like George Orwell's 1984.
What we're living through right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that was it was meant to be a warning, not a friggin' roadmap.
Yeah, I know.
The absolute lunatics we'll have today. And it's not even taken aside. It's just, if you're just a normal person trying to live your life, and then you've got some absolute mental cases out there trying to, like, just control everything about your life, it's not good.
Yeah. Animal Farm was another one.
Yeah.
We did Animal Farm at school, and we went right into it, saying this is very political and things like this, and it's surprising how much has been written in like late 1800s with Mary Shelley, and it's come to light now.
But that's the joy of storytelling, sparking the imagination. Science fiction, horror have been, it's a human condition at the end of the day, is what's explored. And that's what inspires us then to, progress. And because storytelling has effectively died over the last 20 years, we've now regressed.
Yeah.
If you think about it, we are, at the moment, reboot, remake, rehash, reboot, remake, rehash, dun, 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 shitty sequel, reboot, remake, rehash. That's all we get now.
Yeah.
And look at the result of society because of it. We're okay because we're old farts and we're just going senile, so that's just part of age. But look at the younger ones that know nothing else, and they can barely communicate, they can barely speak, they can barely think. And it's not even being nasty, it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
And there's a direct link between storytelling and sparking the imagination and making people think they can do more, or giving warnings, and that feeds into culture, and culture is what makes you want to be better. Look at technology. Look, we've got to a certain point, we're racing up, and now we've just stopped. Yeah, we're at that stage. Yeah, they're trying to make processors a bit better. They're bloating software, but it doesn't do anything more. It just takes up more memory, and they're making more memory to take up more bloated software. The algorithms, and the technology, they're still messing about with VR.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a concept in the 70s, and it was available in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they're still messing about. They can't get it right. You know what I mean? We've gone nowhere.
No, not really.
You buy new rectangle. Now, if you think of the times in Nokia, even all the mad phones of the day, and all, you know what I mean, the phone for every occasion, did all sorts of crazy things, and that. But now it's here's the latest rectangle that does exactly the same as what your old rectangle does, but we're giving it a new letter or number.
Yeah.
Look at you know what I mean. It's all connected, and it's all connected to good storytelling. Look at
Yeah.
how we were progressing as a society. You know, no society's perfect. We're people at the end of the day. We're always going to bash each other over the head with clubs, given a chance.
Yeah. I with remakes, I don't. After I went to watch Psycho, because I was a big fan of Hitchcock's Psycho 1960 version, and my son says, "Oh, they've remade Psycho. Let's go and see it." And Vince Vaughn just wasn't Anthony Perkins, and after that, I really don't bother with remakes unless they remade Star Wars. So.
Yeah.
No, I just, I mean, you look at Poltergeist.
Oh God, Cameron tried to argue with me that was a good movie.
No, it's awful.
We were not agreeing on that one.
No,
and he was going through every mental gymnastic possible to try and convince me that was a good movie, and I'm like, nah, mate, we're not. You're not. I'm not returning on this one.
They took a classic and murdered it.
That was, awful. Check out the review on the channel, by the way, folks. It's in there. It's in one of the playlists. The reviews.
If you take one scene from it when the wife goes, she puts the crash helmet on the kid, and Craig T. Nelson comes in, doesn't he? And she goes, "What's this?"
Watch it, and then slides Carol Ann across the floor.
The thing that reminds me of Craig T. Nelson's just look of shock on his face. And it's not rushed. It's just the right speed of a look of shock horror, and how probably most of us would look, and it just didn't go right. It was so fast, the new Poltergeist, that I turned it off after about 10 minutes. Someone was watching. I think it was my son that was watching it, and I started reading the book.
Well, unfortunately, I had to stick it through to do a review on it. And it's like, I sometimes like I hate my job. You know when it is, why am I doing this shit?
Yeah.
At least we'll have movies like this. I think it's the whole just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I think that's the principle underlying message of the story.
I think it's a man's hope of something that they wish could happen, and that it's a story, and you think in the mind of someone, you think, what if that could happen? And of course now, like we said, it's beginning to happen. They're starting to transplant hands, or have done.
That's been going on for years.
Yeah, and I think back, if you look at Boris Karloff's thing, it was them to put together a man from body parts, and I think it's the feeling from people. They're thinking, oh God, this is something new, and of course now it's a thing that happens.
I would say there's a race now between transplant. There's a field of study. If scientists would stop preaching about silly things and actually get back to doing science, it'd be nice. We could move forward. But there's one train of research about actually growing the limbs and having them genetically compatible, because that's a big thing. If they're not genetically compatible, the body rejects it, and then you have to take. That was the whole thing of taking a drug therapy that reduced your essentially white blood cell count.
Yeah.
And then I think they were working on trying to get that you actually can grow the limb. But then cybernetics, prosthetics is really almost overtaken all that.
Yeah.
If you look at the prosthetic limbs now and the electronic ones that are using mobile phone technology.
3D printers.
Yeah, 3D printers as well. Yeah, and
they're making parts on a 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
I had a tooth replaced, quite a major tooth, and he done it in like a thing that made teeth. He done it at the same time. He took the tooth out, went and made a tooth, and then brought it back and fitted it. And it's like mad. Yeah.
Well, that's I mean, things like that, because like I said, storytelling, we're not getting any more innovation. It's really stifling.
Yeah.
And it's stories like this that ponder the imagination. Well, could I? Well, if I don't want to do that, what could I do?
Yeah.
You know, and you have to put the ideas in there, and then
But
you don't know what someone else is going to take with an idea and
if you
make
think
out of
of
it.
story, they took especially in the 30s with Boris Karloff, they took a story that could have been controversial for the time. If people back then didn't know such things and thought, "Oh my God, they're taking body parts and making a man." These days, there's nothing new. It's like you said, it's they're remaking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that if they do, what's the latest one I saw? Bonnie and Clyde versus Dracula was made last year. Yeah, you search it up.
Okay.
Bonnie and Clyde versus Dracula. But they're coming up with these crazy things because they haven't got any original stories.
That's because the people that work in the creative industry now are not creative. They've come straight out of university, they've no life experience. You
No,
need to live life to have stories and to have ideas. You need to actually be there.
yeah,
You don't come out of a bubble into another bubble and then expect, you've nothing to offer.
but if you think we never had computers and things like that or I didn't when I was growing up, so we used to read books. I read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula, and we used to read books, and I think that's what made our minds creative. These days, they play on, computer games and everything. They haven't got the creativeness of storytelling, because they're too interested in coming up with games. Ready Steady. Was it Ready Steady? Something or other about computer games, films about computer games, and Tron.
Oh, what's that? That second one was
It was
horrendous.
Disney's. The first one was quite original for its time, because what you were looking at, 1979, something like that. And it's
Early
like,
80s anyway.
yes, suddenly, 30 years later, let's make another one because we got computers now, and
Oh, it was terrible.
it wasn't original anymore, because back when Tron 1 was made, it was original, and people went, this is an original story here, and it's good for its time. 30 years down the line, it was, so what? And
Yeah.
and I think this is the thing. People no longer read and get the creativity of books that are from back when things were creative.
Fun enough, I was watching a thing earlier on because there's this whole thing about the generational, the antagonism between the generations, and it's all stems from social media. Those that have grown up in the internet and social media era that know nothing else can't concentrate. They have to watch. Say you want to tell something to a kid. Say we were to do this, right? We would have to have a computer game playing in the background
Yeah.
with enough light and stimulation, with us talking over the top of it, for the kid to actually take notice. See this now, just us two talking. Young people they can't deal with that. The fact that
No.
this is more than 30 seconds long, they don't have the
No.
ability, and it's
They
not
have
even slagging them off. They legitimately don't have the ability to take that amount of information in.
No.
They don't have the attention span. It's gone.
No.
We're
We were
in a lot of trouble. Well,
actually talking today. I said there was one of my friends said they missed the olden days, and I said, yeah, the times when your mobile phone was a little red box up the end of the street, Um, and you know, you used to in the school holidays, you used to help the
Remember
milkman deliver.
10p's used to be that size?
Yeah, I know.
Friggin' humongous.
Well, it's funny you should say that because Cole has still got the old 10p's over there, a bag of them. So yeah, because I sorted out all his change and everything that he had all around the house. Yeah, he's still got some old 10p's. But yeah, they were supersized, weren't they? And 5p's, they were bigger.
Yeah, they were pretty decent too. When was that? Was it the 90s? Everything changed. All the coins got smaller and the ridges around the.
I've no idea.
I think it was the 90s.
Yeah, probably a save
God.
on cost, wasn't it?
Well, anyway, this is a tangent and a half.
Sorry to plug the Irish, but wasn't it something in the news back along about someone was copying pound coins in Ireland and it was costing them £1 and 5p per coin?
It would not surprise me. Proper idiots out there.
Yeah.
Worst counterfeit. That's an old story, that actually. That's the old lead and the gold. You know, the whole alchemy thing. It is possible to do, but it costs more to produce the gold than what it's actually worth. So it's you can change lead into gold, but it's the value of the gold that you get is actually less than the cost of the process, so it's not worth doing.
So going back to Frankenstein, do you think that this film cemented Terence Fisher as one of their main directors?
I would say so, because this is the entire aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, you think what we've watched, like, I know it's only been 2 movies, but don't forget, it's not just, we've been only covering the horror movies. Hammer, as a film company, has been going for about 20 years at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, he went on to do loads for them.
Yeah, because this is the aesthetic. This is Hammer horror. This is the look. This is when you think of a Hammer movie.
Yeah.
This is what you... The castles, the backdrops, the costumes. You know, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
One thing that did with it, this is where they actually made as well the story of Frankenstein interesting, because we get the same as a young boy, essentially a teenager.
Yeah.
And the fact he's established, as the Baron early on in life, and we'll get to see more into his character, which usually, like that Universal monster, just focused on the mad science part. But we got a bit of an insight into the man behind it, which I thought was intriguing.
He, looking at, he done so much for them. Yeah, God.
Well, that's good in a way, because then there's been a consistency.
I think it was the sort of Spielberg of today, of the 90s and 2000s, where everybody wanted this one director. And I think back in, I think the horror people thought, we want Terence Fisher. He's a bloody good director, and I think this probably cemented him, this one, as someone who was highly sought after especially for horror.
Well, your film makes that profit margin.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's just
back then, $8 million or pounds.
Yeah, but on a $270,000 budget,
which was a quite a big budget as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the returns, proved it was worth it.
Yeah.
But it's not just a spectacle as well. There's storytelling here. There's characterization.
Yeah.
It doesn't just rely on spooky castles and monsters. There's actually a whole tale to be told here.
Yeah, because it brings out Frankenstein's madness. If you think the Baron, when he starts off as a young boy, I must say, I don't know if you noticed who that boy was, but it was a very young Melvin Hayes, who went on to be quite a comedy actor. He was in what's the one with Windsor Davis? Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, was it?
I think so.
The one where they were. It was.
I only remember Windsor Davis from It Ain't Half Hot.
Davis in Lofty.
Lovely boys. It's Friday, lovely boys.
And yeah. Well, he was actually in that one. Melvin Hayes. Let's check on him. But he was very much a comedy actor in that, and he was very young because he played the original, the young boy Baron.
Mm-hmm.
There he is, Melvin Hayes.
And he did it very well because we got an insight. Here's someone from a young age had title thrust upon them, power, and basically, could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And instead, like he could have been a dilettante, he could have just partied his life away.
Yeah.
Instead, he didn't. He dedicated. He had this obsession.
It ain't our fault, Mum.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
that's Windsor Davies. That's a classic.
That was for 7 years. He played that. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the thing I noticed which was quite funny, but was when it went from Melvin Hayes to Peter Cushing, he sort of aged quite quickly, the character, didn't it?
Peter Cushing's never looked young. That's the problem.
No.
Peter Cushing has always looked that age. It's like Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart's never looked young. Just one of them people, so you can't really do much with him.
Yeah.
He's always looked like that.
Well, it was quite funny because the young Melvin Hayes who played the Baron was quite young compared to Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly it went to Peter Cushing, and Peter Cushing looked older than Paul.
Yep, they're probably the same age, if not but younger. Like I was a young Peter Cushing, but he's always looked like that.
Yeah.
And also it's good to why today it's all about being hot, and everyone's all roided up and ribbed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's all they're looking for with Hollywood. But you had characters.
Yeah.
And I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that it was about it's not about a supermodel catwalk across the screen, which it is today. In fact, it's not even, because most Hollywood people are bland. Like there's nothing attractive about them.
No.
There might be one or two, but most of them are just so generic that you can't tell the difference between them. They're so interreplaceable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just interesting that he hired his own tutor to basically.
Yeah. He says, "I am the Baron. My dad died 10 years ago."
Mm-hmm.
Looking at Terence Fisher though, before.
Steve Martin, he's another one, yeah.
He before this one, a lot of the stuff he did was not horror. It was crime, stroke. It's crime stroke TV. And then suddenly he gets pulled into this Curse of Frankenstein. The Mickey Mouse Club. Dracula. He done Curse of Frankenstein, and then he gets called in to do the Mickey Mouse Club on TV.
That's fair enough. It's good to be versatile.
And then he went up to his next horror film was Dracula, which we knew anyway from.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went back to the Frankensteins, Hound of the Baskervilles, Man Who Could Cheat Death, The Mummy. So he was brought in to do an awful lot of Brides of Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Curse of the Werewolf, Phantom of the Opera, Sherlock Holmes and the Deadly Necklace. So the Gorgon, The Earth Died Scream, Dracula, Prince of Darkness. So he was brought in after the success of this film, Curse of Frankenstein, to do an awful lot of horror. And like I said, this film probably cemented him as the director that would be highly sought after of today. Like you got the Spielbergs, haven't you?
Yeah, and to be honest, absolutely deserved it, because this is a brilliant film and it's still watchable.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's proper. You're you don't just put it on in the background. You know what I mean? If you're watching this, you're watching it. You know,
Yeah.
you're enjoying the story.
Yeah, I watched it this morning again.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got out of bed and boom, stuck it on. So
It was a strange one with the whole Elizabeth plot line.
yeah, because he was having an affair with a nanny, wasn't he?
Yeah, which is another strange thing. I know what they were setting that up for, but it was almost just to show him as the bad guy. It's like
yeah,
he's killing people and nicking bodies from graves. You don't need anything else to tell us he's the bad guy. We know.
yeah, bad guy, nutter,
Yeah, we kind of get that. But
loony professor sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, the whole kissing cousin thing. You know, I'm gonna marry my cousin. That's suppose that was all right back then.
And then to get rid of her, so Elizabeth wouldn't find out, he locks her in with a monster. And I thought, that's showing his true side there, showing what he can do. But
Oh yeah, the guy's absolutely obsessed, and everyone's just a a commodity to be used and disposed of at will. But that's this. They spent the good thing about this is they spend time on Frankenstein's character that you have to, so you understand that there's no reason with this man,
no,
and there's no real bond of friendship. You know, you don't be friends with this man because he's he is psychopathic
yeah,
and complete narcissist. So you're never going to have a true friendship with someone like him or a relationship because he's obsessed and that's all he's about. He wants to be God.
from the start, he knew what he wanted, even from
Mhm.
a young that Melvin Hayes character.
Yeah.
He'd asked for the tutor. What was it he said? He said something like, "Oh, you get these tutors who read from a book for 30 years and still get no further." And then he employs this Paul, and even Paul he uses, doesn't he? He sort
Oh
of
yeah.
treats.
Always only useful as long as he was going along with his obsession.
Mm,
But like I said, Elizabeth's character, that was a strange one because yeah, the family was indebted to him, and part of the arrangement was that they married. Fair enough, but why was she getting so upset that he's in the lab? Like she met him what as a child, and then didn't see him for like 20 years.
yeah,
It was arranged marriage. There's no real affection there, and yet she's getting like she should almost be glad that he's not interested in her. If you know what I mean, if you're in that sort of situation,
it's
best
all
of both.
arguments, isn't
Yeah, you see, she's got a secure future, gets to toddle about her life. He toddles about his, and it worked. Unless an urn needed to be produced, that was really the only time they'd have to worry about anything.
Yeah,
Yet she's badgered him about never leaving the lab and stuff. I found that part of the storyline a bit strange.
yeah,
I know it's more of a storytelling device to tell the audience that he's always obsessed with his work. I get that aspect of it, but we've sort of already seen that anyway.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the only part of this I don't really get is the Elizabeth character.
yeah.
Because
Probably just it's
there's
a
enough in
side
the story.
story, because every story's got to have its, rather than go straight down the line, you got to go out on a tangent a little bit and
Not like this podcast.
Yeah.
People, if you're coming here just for a movie review, jog on because
Away.
we'll get back to that eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a bit. I think that was overplayed slightly.
Yeah.
That's my only complaint was Elizabeth's character was slightly overplayed.
Yeah. Yeah, she was. I thought. I mean, mistake-wise, there wasn't. I didn't find an awful lot. When initially the Paul and that were bringing the dog back to life, the light must have been shining on Paul, because you had Paul's character, Paul's shadow on the wall, but you had a second shadow as well belonging to someone. And I guess it wasn't Baron Frankenstein. Of course, you had the lovely red paint blood, didn't you? You know,
Come on, that stays with us till about the 70s at least.
a couple
It
of
wasn't
boobs.
until the 80s. Blood didn't become a thing, as in it's the 80s horror, the all the special effects people had their own recipes. That didn't really come until the VHS era. It's always this sort of, because don't forget, they're still, even though it's a color film, they're still going through the transition. Because what they would have got away with for a black and white one, they were still using a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And hadn't really perfected the technique, and thinking of color gradients and stuff. It was just something that.
There was a thing about Hitchcock, wasn't it? Even black and white, he wasn't happy with what they were using for blood in Psycho, and he went through several different kinds of liquids to use for the blood in the black and white film. Yeah, others would have just used black paint or something like that. But,
yeah, that's the bright red paint, just which has been a thing. At least I go by the my stance says digital blood should be made illegal.
Yeah,
that is an abomination. At least I can forgive a bucket of red paint over digital blood any day.
Yeah.
Digital blood. If you use digital blood in your movie, you should go to jail. You should actually do some jail time because you're committing a crime, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just pretty naff, isn't it? You just don't get the right context of it running as blood would. And, someone's got a head injury and they do it digital. It just
it's awful.
If you use like their fake blood in a thing, it actually runs similar to how it would if it was your actual blood.
And like I said, when we get into the sort of 80s, that's when people are like, okay, so it needs to dry at this sort of, it needs to go on, but then it needs to dry enough so it looks like it's real, and people really get into their recipes, and I miss all that. And this is the start of it, because it wasn't horrendous.
No.
It wasn't, there's still, like, there's people can't make movies like this today.
Oh, not at all.
That look as good.
No. This is
twice the budget. There's people cannot make movies that look this good today.
You can watch a lot of Hammer in particular. You can watch over and over again, and 6 months down the line, think, oh, I'll watch that one again, and not get bored of it. Whereas these days, I buy a Blu-ray, and it goes in my box after. I never think, I'll watch that again. Very, very few. I do like the Clint Eastwood movies. I'll probably watch them, but whereas if I'd love to get the complete Hammer House content.
You can't. That is they haven't actually put that entire collection together.
No,
that's one I've been looking for too. And even I looked in. There was a Hammer Horror like triple box set, and there's even in sex they were charging like 25 quid for it, and I'm like, no, that's a bit much.
Do you think they'd have to? What's it they call it?
Because you can pick up the Universal Monsters collection, like 30 movies for.
They have to remaster it, don't they? Because the original print is so worn.
Yeah, but that would bloody sell. You're telling me that if they re-released the Hammer Horror movie collection today as a 4K or even a Blu-rays, they wouldn't sell.
Oh,
if they did box sets,
I'd definitely buy it.
Would be all if they did like a limited, say they did like 1,000 run limited series, that'd be sold out in a day.
Yeah.
I've got scalpers would be all over that too. You know what I mean? That'd be scalped.
I've got the Hitchcock box set. They took all his best films put them in a box set, and it's on DVD. I know, not Blu-ray, but I've kept it because I do like Hitchcock.
No, my next thing's a Universal Monsters collection. I know you can get all 30 movies in the box set.
Yeah.
That's my next thing I'm saving up for.
So if you're listening out there, we want a Hammer House complete box, complete set of Hammer horrors, please.
Absolutely, that would be your shelf, just like for them. You set the.
How many fans would buy it?
That would be sold out.
Yeah.
It would be sold out.
Yeah.
But the studios are silly. Honestly, today is just they have no idea. The disconnect between the people that run entertainment and the people that watch and buy entertainment couldn't be further apart.
It's the same with the Oscars, isn't it? Did you know the only horror film that's won an Oscar for Best Actor, Best Lead?
We're not looking at the Oscars. I'm not getting in any more trouble.
Oh, sorry. Dr. Jekyll and Mr.
That was you last time as well.
Yeah.
Mention the Oscars, and I get I get them coming after me.
All right, the Johns. All right, the Johns. The only horror film that's won a John for Best Lead Actor was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde back in 1920 something. And that's the only one today.
God, that was funny. Like they
got something about they got something about horror films.
They're snobs.
Or
it's the mainstream.
Do you count Silence of we've had this discussion before. Do you count Silence of the Lambs as a horror film?
It's a thriller, but with enough horror elements.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely in the thriller category. I think they just shied away from the gore enough.
I mean, most films these days are horror films because they're shite.
Yeah, it's just a horror watching them. No.
One thing I did notice, which amuses me in the old type of films, is the woodwork of things like banister rails. You know, when he chucked the intelligent
professor. So right.
Yeah.
Let's think about this logically. He wants the professor's brain.
Yeah.
So how does he get the professor's brain? By chucking him off a banister, getting him to land on his head.
Yeah, and he did, didn't he? Yeah.
And then he blames Paul for damaging it. And you're like, hang on a minute.
You started the banister. But if you notice, any film, like that around the 50s, the banister rail never survives, does it? You think, God, if I'd employed the chippy on that, I'd bloody complain and get him done on Trey's description.
The only one that was good banister rail was The Omen.
Yeah.
That was a good banister rail. Now that really held.
Hanging off the thing. That made me laugh. The banister rail.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna get the professor's brain, but I'm gonna bash his brain in to get it. It's like, you ever heard of poison, mate? You know what I mean? Or sleep?
Yeah. Just whack him. Stick a knife in his stomach. You're not gonna hurt his brain by doing that. But
I suppose he wanted to look like an accident, but I don't know. Paul's character is an interesting one.
Yeah, he's very much I'll teach you to start with, and then I'm all for it, and then it gets to the point where it's getting quite dodgy, and he thinks, actually, I could get in trouble for this. I think he's thinking, and he pulls back, and then he comes in again, and then he pulls back, and of course, then when Elizabeth invites him to the wedding, doesn't she? And but when she goes and announces it, I don't know if you notice this, she goes and says, Victor, Paul's here. And he goes, Paul? Oh, Paul. And it's like, is he losing his mind? Like, he doesn't know who Paul is?
He's just completely wrapped up in his...
Yeah.
The fact that Paul continued to live at the house, he'd already said, "I'm not taking part in this anymore." So he effectively had no purpose
No, and he was living
when
there
he
for
and he just living there rent free. Like once he stopped being the lab assistant,
yeah.
he had no purpose whatsoever.
Mm,
I just
yeah.
find that a bit strange. This is the bits where the sort of plot needed tightened up a bit.
Mm. The other mistake I did notice a couple of times was on the creature. The scars kept disappearing or moving. There was the scars on the wrist. One minute there'd be a scar where they transplanted the hands. Next moment it'd gone, and it would come back. And the other thing, he had like marks on his face, and it would go there, and then suddenly it was there, and then suddenly it was there, and then it was back to there. So
Well, I
yeah,
suppose they didn't have Polaroids back then, and taking photographs was a big endeavor.
yeah. But
So
and if the, I mean, if you're like me, I notice things like that. But
yeah, but I don't think they would have, like today they would have taken a photograph
yeah,
and then they'd just use that as reference to do it again. But I think back then, no, because I'm thinking about this because it happens a lot with makeup,
mm,
and it was just I think photography was so expensive.
yeah.
It was actually an endeavor to get a portrait done.
You
It
know,
was the same as you may as well have paid an artist to paint the cost of photography. So to do that for the special effects, I think wouldn't have been justified as a budgetary
you know,
constraint.
when the creature, Christopher Lee, he when he escaped and he comes across the boy and the blind man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he must have had some intelligence to put a coat on. he went out with that big, thick black coat on, didn't he?
Yeah.
And A, where did he get it? And B, if he was sort of brain dead, would he have had the intelligence to go, oh, God, it's bloody cold out there. I'm going to put this coat on.
Would he have felt it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Nerving. I thought they were going to replicate the scene actually from the Universal one.
Or the
With
Boris
the wee,
collar.
yeah, basically, the scene with the wee girl by the lake, but have the wee lad do it instead. But obviously
Yeah.
they didn't.
Mm.
I was, what I mean, I lost count number of times I watched this, but then wee things that come in my head and wonder, was that what they were trying to do? Was replicate that scene?
Yeah.
And then you realize, no, they're not. And I'm like, what are you thinking, Colin? Wise up.
A thing I asked as well, if they executed the Baron, how did they make a sequel? You didn't actually see them execute the Baron. You just saw the
The guillotine. That's
guillotine.
one of the most iconic scenes in the film. Is
Yeah.
that guillotine?
Yeah.
That's one I remember from a kid. Honestly, just the sign of that scene with the guillotine, just something about it.
Yeah. But they made a sequel and he was still alive. So
I think we'll get to that when we'll
had
go
to
to
use
watch
your
it.
own
Because
imagination, really.
mhm.
Yeah. On that. But, yeah. And of course, when Elizabeth goes into the lab, and do you think the creature is chained up and everything? And when Victor shows Paul, stand up, and he stands up, sit down, sits down, and of course, and then suddenly Elizabeth comes in, and he just goes like this with the chain and pulls all the bolts out, and you think, same bloke done that bloody bolt as done the banister rail.
Yes, like, bloody maybe don't use balsa wood. Just a suggestion.
Oh,
I love, but even the whole laboratory, like that is the classic mad scientist laboratory.
yeah,
Like I remember being asked in school, like, "What do you want to be?" As like a scientist, and oh, what type? Like mad scientist. I just like from primary school, I just had this vision of being like Frankenstein with a lightning and all coming from the top and chains and pulleys and just doing crazy stuff. But I'm terrible at maths, so yeah, that kind of. I discovered that after my A levels. I was like, yeah, I'm not good at this calculating stuff.
the one thing I thought was quite impressive for its time, you think this was 1957, was when they set the creature on fire near the end of the film.
Yeah.
I thought back then they couldn't have had things like
They wouldn't have the Nomax suit or anything.
suits and stuff like this. And I thought, this is pretty impressive here. They've set him on fire, and I thought that is brilliant. That's
That's what I'm saying. There's people can't make movies like this today.
Oh God, no!
Like, this is brilliant. It's you freaking Andrew. Steve does the bad jokes in this bit. That's not your segment. You do the crazy theories. Steve does the bad jokes. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, you're for the chop, Chris.
Oh dear. How it begins. No, that special effect, like, that was still impressive in the 80s.
Yeah.
90s, you know what I mean? It's still an impressive effect. And the fact that they did it in 1957 is like...
Yeah, I thought, hey, that's they couldn't have had... Because if you think today, it would all be CGI, but even if they did do it...
Oh, God, I watched... because obviously it's a long weekend. I watched The Northman on Saturday.
Oh, no. Don't.
I liked it, for the most part. But there's a bit when they're in the hall, right? And they've got that fire in the middle.
Yeah.
That's digital. That's a fucking digital fireplace. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing?
But if you think today, if they were going to use a real fire scene, they'd have a fire brigade on standby. They'd have a risk assessor. They'd go for the full.
Well, the unions wouldn't allow it, you know.
Oh no, they wouldn't. They'd say do it on CGI. But back then, and it was quite a long scene, really. For it wasn't a case of set him on fire, pan the camera elsewhere, and then pan back, and he was off. He was walking around on fire.
Like, that would be getting toasty under there.
Yeah. And
see, that's a problem. Back then, because there wasn't home video, there wasn't a reason to do the special effects features.
No.
So we'll never really know, apart from maybe the odd interview, we'll never really get the full insight on how this stuff was made.
No.
That's why I think why there's still a magic about it, because once the idea of it was more DVD market, you would get the special features.
Yeah.
But
if you think back then, it would have been a case of how do we do this? Whereas today we can just use CGI.
Yeah.
We don't.
There's no magic.
There's no question in heads together of gone, how the hell are we going to do this? We want to set this guy on fire. How are we going to do it? And you would have had a bit like Ray Harryhausen, the special effects guy who does all the stop motion in the monster films, and dinosaur films and stuff like that. And he was one of those that went, how are we going to do it? This is how I'm going to do it. Play with it. And it must have been the same back. We want to set this guy on fire. Bloody hell! How are we going to do that? Let's try
and actually setting them on fire and killing them.
Yeah. Whereas now they just say, stick it on computer. I mean, you see some of the films these days, isn't it, where they blow up a building and you can tell it's CGI because
I don't watch them. That's the thing. Most mainstream movies I don't bother with.
No.
I have no interest whatsoever.
It's the average
shit. I haven't watched an action movie in ages because I just no interest, And that was always big dumb fun, but just like action movies, you name it, sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother seeing Dune Part 2 because I just could be annoyed. I'm just like, I'm not excited.
No.
Fantasy movies, like what fantasy movies are out that are any good?
No, we and modern horror is not fantastic.
Oh
It's like
god, you see this on what we did yesterday? Oh my god, it was awful. And I've done a couple of the weekends and just absolute crap. Just there's nothing there.
what was that one I told you we watched the other day? The up to date one.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, it's just out. Oh, anyway, it was crap. Oh, oh
Yeah.
God. Imaginary.
Oh yes, that's right, imaginary.
Oh,
Yeah, because there's another one that you were.
yeah. Imaginary.
I was the other one, 14 cameras you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. That was good. That was good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I didn't even. I saw that. What was it? The poster for Imaginary. I'm like, nah. I think I'd seen the trailer for it, and I'm like, I just no interest.
It's just not scary. It's and the actors just seem to be going through the motions, and if the things that happened to me, I'd be booing my pants, and there'd be a look of horror on my face.
Fucking actors are crap. Honestly, it's hard to get invested in anything. That's where I mean, this is proper character acting.
Oh yeah,
It's not even it's not Peter Cushing storming on the stage as Peter Cushing. He always invests in every character. Christopher
he
Lee
yeah.
invests in every character he portrays.
Peter Cushing becomes Victor Frankenstein. He doesn't
Yeah.
become Peter Cushing playing Victor Frankenstein. It's like he goes into a different world of playing the character.
And we've seen we've seen those two act together in so many scenes, playing different characters and engaging with each other in different ways.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. They just become the characters. Where, like today, in fact there isn't even a movie star anymore. You know what I mean? It's even worse because even in the 80s and 90s, you had the action, you know what I mean, the movie star, and they just staggered on the screen. But you don't even have that now. They're just wooden planks and they're interchangeable.
Yeah.
And you can't tell one from the other.
Yeah. And I think this is
I tell you what, actually, I did a news article on the latest Scream movie coming out. It was Courtney Cox is joining, right?
Screen 7.
Yeah, and the other one, Neve Campbell, is already signed up for it. But I looked at the picture and I couldn't tell which one was which. Seriously, I couldn't tell the difference. You'd have to put the picture up with their face and their name, and I'd go, "Oh, right," and then that's the other one. But I have no interest in those actors. They're just so bland, so generic, so interchangeable that you could tell me one was the other, and I'd believe you because I just no reference or emotional investment into which is which. They're just terrible. That's what makes this a classic. Could you?
When you get an actor who becomes the character, it stops them being typecast of like you would not say Peter Cushing was Victor Frankenstein only because he goes on to and he plays Van Helsing.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure we've covered him in the Amicus films. Look how many characters he plays there.
He becomes Van Helsing, and he becomes. Whereas actors today, if you think, what's the actor who played Frodo Baggins?
Elijah Wood.
Yeah,
sure he's terrible.
To me, Elijah Wood would always be Frodo Baggins. Nothing else. I can't think of anything else.
No, well, that's him and
Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah,
he's always Harry Potter because he's just gone in and played that part, and he doesn't invest into it to think I am Harry Potter like Peter Cushing goes in and goes, I am Victor Frankenstein. I'm not Peter Cushing. I'm Victor Frankenstein. I'm Van Helsing. Where Daniel Radcliffe for instance, is I'm being paid to play this character, to turn up, and the director's going to tell me how to play this character, and if I do it wrong, he'll whisper in my ear, "No, I want it done like this. I want it done like this." Whereas I can imagine Terence Fisher working with Peter Cushing, going, "You play it how you want to play it," because
There's a level of trust there.
a fantastic actor, and you become Victor Frankenstein.
It was Christopher Lee said in an interview, and I'll remember this, at some time in your career, you're going to do a bad movie. That's inevitable. The trick is not to be bad in them.
Yeah.
And that's the mantra, of that ilk and that time, that's the mantra they live by. It's at some stage you're going to do a terrible movie, but you, as long as you do the best you can, and you play as if it's going to be the best thing ever, and you put that amount of effort, then you can leave with integrity. But that doesn't exist.
Some composers, if you think Hans Zimmer, when he said, he plays all in his concerts, he plays certain scores from his films, and he actually says that, the film was rubbish, and because the film was rubbish, the music went with the film, and I like the music. I believe in the music, even though others might think it's rubbish. And I think, with films, you could say, it's up to the audience to think this film's rubbish. But like you said, as long as the character comes, the person playing the role comes across. We've seen films that we've been reviewing.
Oh yeah, we've done as well. Going, the actor tried their best.
This actor's tried his best.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's what you can actually forgive a lot of stuff if the character's there and there's an attempt. You get a feeling that there's an attempt to make something good. You tend to be a bit more forgiving of things. When you see that there's no attempt and you're just being thumbed off, then you start to dig into everything. Oh, that doesn't look right. When you get that rubbed up the wrong way with a film, then you just start looking at everything, going, "Well, why is this so bad?"
Yeah. There were a couple of times you could see Christopher Lee's skin appear in his neckline under,
Yeah, I'd seen that
mask. But I mean, it's only if you're looking for that sort of thing, like me.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Because this is a good film, you're not.
Yeah.
Generally, if you're just watching it as not to review it or critique it.
Yeah.
If you're just watching it, then you're not looking for those other things. You're just going along with it. You're invested in the story and you're going along with it.
Yeah.
If this was a bad movie, and if it was bad acting, then you'd be hyper focused on all those things, because it would just be something else to sort of validate your feelings about it.
Yeah. Did you notice as well? There was a scene where Elizabeth was going up towards the lab, and she was wearing a pair of high-heeled shoes. Now, considering the film was supposed to be late 1800s, wasn't it? And she was wearing high-heeled shoes. I thought, did they have high-heeled shoes?
I never picked up on that.
Yeah. Did they have high-heeled shoes back in the late 1800s? I don't know. I'm just looking at my notes here.
Never thought about it. I suppose if they're walking on a pair of trainers or something, I'd be like, I would notice, but I never thought about the high heels.
Yeah.
When was the high heel invented?
I don't know. I don't wear them. Well, I do on Sundays, but.
When was the high heel invented? 10th century.
Oh, right.
So they've been around for a while.
Quite possibly then. I might be wrong.
Yeah. Persian.
Yeah.
Persians invented it. Yeah. No, they've been around.
Yeah.
They're originally worn by men.
Chris wears them.
Oh, of course. He has a special pair for when he comes on to do the Tremors reviews. um, yeah,
The
the whole thing with the shotgun as well. I love that the when they killed the monster the first time.
shot him in the eye, didn't he?
Yeah,
And,
with a shotgun. It's like,
yeah,
nah. His head would have been his
that would
head
have
would have
been blown
disappeared.
his head apart. Yeah, yeah. Just looking the got a worth a mention. The stuntman who did the fire at the end was called Jock Easton.
Hmm.
So 10 out of 10 to you, Jock, if you're still alive. Because, yeah.
Nah, it's yeah, because that was pioneering. Like, I don't think anything of that era has ever been done like that.
Not back then. And
No, not that level. So that's
because it was pretty up around the head as well, wasn't it? It was like,
oh yeah, and
up
that's
there and it went up. And then, yeah. Let's have a look.
and
Jock Easton.
if there's no wrong way, was the fire extinguisher invented it? Because I don't think they would have had. I think it would have been buckets of water.
Oh, yeah. Jock Easton, stunt
When was
range.
the fire extinguisher invented? Oh,
Stunt
1723. Flip's sake, man. Oh, but the traditional one, there's a timeline. Hang on. 1910, 1924. Yeah, so the traditional fire extinguisher wasn't invented until 1997. You know the one we're used to, the red one?
Yeah.
Around about 1924, it was like a pump. It's like a gold brass sort of pump operated one. So it wouldn't have been like, like you see with Formula One,
Yeah.
if a driver catches fire, they're straight away with the carbon dioxide. There'd just been a water fire extinguisher with, if that was a flammable liquid. Actually, when was the CO2 fire extinguisher invented? 1920. Oh, actually, hold on. 1924. Oh, flip's sake, that stuff's been around for a while.
Yeah.
There you go. But I don't think they would have had. I don't think they would have used them for the film. It wouldn't have been in the budget, so it would have been buckets of water or something.
Yeah.
Um,
He was 45 when he did this stunt. He'd been in a few things before, but he died 23 years later, so 55, 65. So he died age 68, Jock Easton. But yeah, he did quite a few stunts. Guns and Navarone, Alexander the Great, William Tell, Rachel Hornblower, Bonnie Prince Charlie, Curse of Frankenstein. Oh, he was actually in an actor, Hanged Man. He was the Hanged Man. You know he was that, and he was obviously the burning creature. So his two stunts were hanging there, and thumping down onto the car, which I imagine was quite a
bruising.
quite a bad fall, really. And the burning creature. So yeah, he's
They are the two staples of action movies today.
yeah.
You think about it, they are the two staples. He's a pioneer in the two staples of the action genre and horror.
Yeah.
Fair play to him. There's a scene in this here. The only real comedic scene was Justine, the maid, when actually Frankenstein's trying to get rid of her by putting her in the lab.
Yeah.
She just goes looking around the place and then stops to like coochie coo the guinea pigs, which I just thought that was so random.
Yeah. I think but back then I think for a maid to think that she was going to marry a baron,
Yeah, that was never happening.
he was all he wanted was to get his leg over, really, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
Because he was quite a, even from day one when his mother died, wasn't it? He was quite a nasty type of person when he was saying yes, yes, goodbye, get out,
Yeah, but
yes,
that's
you'll get your allowance, piss off.
but that was a good insight into his character. But needed that.
But that's how he was treating her back then when she was a young girl. And they say leopards never change their spots, and because he was, I mean, he was even nasty to Paul when he first came in, wasn't he? Saying,
Mhm.
well, you haven't got the job yet. And it showed his character from day one. And
Control, power, and that's what
control.
he was lusting of. Was the ultimate power is to create life, to own life.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually to do anything good. Like Irv's Paul, when they're going through the experiments, think about what we can do with this. We can lower the heart rate. We can, people can survive surgery, etc.,
Mm,
etc. And Frankenstein's just like, no, I just want to own life.
yeah.
He's just doing it for power, not for any other
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. Because he said, oh, we can go to this health organization and,
Hmm.
didn't he? And show them what we've got. No, don't want to do that. With when the dog, when they brought the dog back to life, when they said,
Hmm.
we can do some good with this. And yeah, Frankenstein went, nah, let's carry on doing.
And you think there'd be room, but then again, that's sort of the character. But it's and once again, even like it's not really dissimilar from the book.
Mm,
I mean, the obsession of Frankenstein, but he's not a hero.
no,
So for people to react the way they did to his character as if it's being lauded as the alternative, no, it's once again, it's the warning of the horror story. The horror story is a warning, as in,
mm,
don't do this. Don't let your ego take over. Don't become so obsessed that you forget you lose your humanity because it's never going to lead to a good place. You know what I mean? This is a classic warning of a horror story, which is
like
completely lost today.
I remember talking about the Boris Karloff Frankenstein, and someone actually said to me, "You've actually got to feel sorry for the creature because he didn't ask to be made, and he's been made like he is
Hmm.
by these mad professors." And it's the same with this Christopher Lee's character. He didn't ask to be the way he was. So you got to think, how much like real life is it today? People aren't, they're born and they don't ask to go through life, like how their life pans out
Hmm.
for for some reasons as others controlling them. And this is what Victor Frankenstein did. He was controlling over this creature that he made into what he was.
But
Um,
in the end, but I mean, here's the sort of warning of it is don't do that because it comes back on you.
yeah.
Where today we don't get that. Today we just get a bunch of whiny, spoiled brats, basically.
Mm.
Oh, well, mummy and daddy have financed this, so I'm just going to be like, me, I'm going to do artsy fartsy
They
preach
get.
and don't have anything to
I broke
say.
my mobile phone. Never mind. Mummy and Daddy will buy me a new one.
Yeah. Oh, my life's over.
Yeah.
No. And I don't
Yeah.
get like after right, he's a big vat of acid. Because they never really explained how they've discovered Justine was dispatched and how they found her, or how that's what he ended up. That's what ended up being his downfall was the fact that he killed the maid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's a big vat of acid. Why did he just dissolve the body?
Yeah.
Where was the proof?
Yeah. Because the monster falls in it at the end.
Yeah. So there's no proof that the monster existed.
No. No. And
So
of course, and then in the jail, you know, he says, "You got to tell them, Paul. You got to tell them." What can I tell them? Got no proof, really.
well, that was Paul's uh
Revenge.
revenge, but not out there. the minute he saw Elizabeth, he was thinking to himself, he wants that. He wants a bit of that.
Mm,
He was instantly besotted with Elizabeth.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, he got the girl and he's quite happy. So he's just as much, he's trying to be play the moral high ground, but we see Paul's character as well. That's why I say he's an interesting character, because he's not a black and white one either.
No.
He's protesting. You know that he doth protest too much. He's protesting, but he's always there. He didn't leave until it got too much.
He's like the Dr. Watson to Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, sort of nipping
Yeah.
at the heels and falling, wanting his belly rubbed.
Yeah.
And he never left, and he helped, and he still, just, you have to convince me. His ego played into it as well.
Mm.
And then at the end of the day, he was only there, to be a knight in shining armor to protect Elizabeth. But no, his plan was he wanted Elizabeth for himself.
Yeah.
And that became really apparent.
Mm.
And then the final scene, well, he was quite happy for the Baron to get his head chopped off, because then obviously they inherited everything.
Yeah.
Because of course Elizabeth will become the widow, and then after a allotted period of time, Paul would just mosey on in, like. So he's not the shining example of a stalwart character that he's trying to portray himself out to be. Like, there's a lot of nuance in this film.
Yeah.
For a 1950s film, like, there's a lot of character nuance and looking behind the scenes of people's motivations, and it's very interesting.
But the characterization was brought out on each one
Mm-hmm.
because we noticed it. And then, like we said, going back to the day, they just go through the motions of, you don't get any backstory to a character.
Yeah, it is immortality. The create art of any form, and for it still to be about after you've gone, that's, you essentially do become immortal.
And it's just also a shame that we're going to lose quite a lot of well-known actors within the next few years, because if you think Clint Eastwood's in his 90s now, Gene Hackman,
Michael Caine,
we're gonna
Jack Nicholson's up there.
Yeah, going to use a whole lot of them just like that, and we're going to be left with these plunkers that these newbies. I always put it towards, if you think a certain wrestling organization, that's all I should say, when you had characters in wrestling bits, I better not say who, but you had actual characters. The wrestlers played characters, and now they've replaced them with these younger element, and there's no characters, and there's no backstory like someone who would bury people.
Isn't that a thing now, that it's the UFC fighters that go into the wrestling now?
Yeah.
So it's just like, and then they get actors and stuff to join in, and it's just, I don't know. I despise wrestling. I have always despised it.
Yeah.
To me, that's the dumbest form of entertainment ever.
The thing I'm trying to put across is you're getting all these younger ones.
Yeah, they just
they've got no background. They've just come in, and they've said, okay.
They've roided up. They've oiled themselves, and they're just going to flip and dance. And
so it is. I like you because you're good looking. Oh, I like you because I saw you on the street. Sort of thing.
When everyone's good looking, nobody's good looking.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? When everyone's all looks the same and they all go to the same gym, they all take the same steroids.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. That's why what's her face at the moment? Sydney Sweeney's a big noise, because she actually looks a bit different from every other actress. Every other actress is interchangeable. Like, you can't tell the difference. There's like Saturday I was at about a time, so I was actually watching movies just for fun.
Yeah.
And it was a weird sensation. What, I'm not taking notes, but I tried to watch Evil Dead Rise again. Now, when I went to the cinema, I did enjoy the movie for the most part.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it the second time, and honestly, I just noped out because the actors, the characters are just so bland.
Yeah. I didn't like that film.
Uh, I
That's
think it was
right.
just the shiny lights. Honestly, there's something about going to the cinema. The shiny lights kind of add the experience and it makes it more appealing. But yeah, I just tried to watch it, and I didn't even get to the bit where they found the book. Like, it was just when she arrived at the apartment. I'm looking at these going, I don't like any of these characters.
No.
And there's nothing the two set they look the same, the sound the same. There's nothing about them.
I
And
just
that's just movies
do
today.
enjoy. I think when you're when you're used to the original movie and you've got the excitement of the Sam Raimi, you know, it was just funny horror, wasn't it? It's
Yeah.
zombies coming up through the floor when they've been chained down, and then you get this Evil Dead rise, and you think it's just not Evil Dead.
No, on reflection, it was just, yeah.
Rubbish.
I couldn't even sit through it a second time. So that's always the acid test. Can you watch a movie a second time?
Yeah,
And if you can't, then you know it's not a good one. Or if you find
yeah.
yourself switching off like this, I have watched loads of times.
Oh, three
Like as a
times
kid.
to, in the past few weeks. Like I said, I more or less always watch a movie three times to come on here. But
Yeah, and this isn't even my second time reviewing it because, like I said, Cameron and I did it a couple of years ago, and it's still fresh. You know, it wasn't like good through the same. I still find something to talk about with this movie.
mm,
There you
yeah,
go. There's a reason why they're classics.
mm.
Well, all in all, good time.
Thoroughly enjoyed it,
Yep.
and I can't wait for
The Abominable Snowman, I think it is.
it's the Abominable Snowman.
Oh, there's a great character scene in that.
Is
With
there?
Peter, yeah, because it's Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing in it.
Yeah,
I think Peter Cushing's the one that plays the sort of a bit of woo, bit of wah,
yeah.
the sort of Del Boy type character,
Mm,
and Christopher Lee's playing like the professor, like the straight laced,
mm.
no nonsense. Like they're completely different characters, and they bounce off each other. This is the one with is it? No, that's the other. Maybe I mixing the two of them up. No, I'm mixing up with Horror Express. Sorry.
Hmm.
I'm thinking of the scene out of Horror Express that has Telly Savalas in it.
Ah, yeah.
That's absolutely insane. No, this one I think is just Peter Cushing.
Hmm.
I think it's just Peter Cushing in this, The Abominable Snowman.
Did you hear about Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger got invited to a party, and it was a themed party on composers. So Bruce Willis says, "Oh, I'm going as Tchaikovsky." Sylvester Stallone says, "Oh, I'm going as Wagner." And they turned to Schwarzenegger, says, "Who are you going as?" And he went, "I'll be back."
Wah, wah, wah. Oh, dear. Right. On that note, tune
I'll
in next time
I'll
for
have to get
more.
that thing made up when I keep
Yeah,
forgetting. But when you get to my age, you forget. See, what was it I was saying?
not quite there yet.
It's like when I went to Ibiza. I wanted to go to that big nightclub. Have you heard of that nightclub called Amnesia? Yeah, I wanted to go there, but I forgot.
Oh, dear. I don't know. This is almost as much horror as the movies we watch. Right. Tune in for more cheesy jokes and anecdotes, and maybe we might talk about a movie sometime. We'll squeeze a movie review in there as well. But thanks again for everyone that tuned in. Keep up to date with the channel. Do the typey clicky things. And until next time, keep it creepy. Keep it horrific.